Welcome back to Behind the Shield. Jason, Mike, welcome. We're here to talk about some FedRAMP notices.
Who are
So
you?
I'm Tanner Bailey.
Awesome.
Wait a minute.
Awesome.
FedRAMP notices.
What
What's
are they?
that?
What are FedRAMP notices?
FedRAMP notices are the new communication channel that FedRAMP has set up for things that they don't, they're a big deal, but they're not quite big enough to do like a blog post or a dedicated FedRAMP video or a YouTube video.
Well, the way I understand it, it's more of these are like a kind of a formal record of announcements, right? And
Right.
blogs give more of a bigger picture
Mhm.
kind of view of what's going on, right? With probably some commentary in there. But the public notices are more of that, like, here's public record. It's chronological, so you can kind of go back in time and see the history of how things stack up. And how many times have we had to recreate, like, when did that happen? And
Right.
right.
Yeah.
In the 10 years of FedRAMP.
Who said what? When?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And what happened to that document? But I think this is their way of getting a little bit better at
Communication.
communicating.
Yeah.
Well, and it gives them sort of a way to report out results from like, what happened with the RFCs? Should we just revise the RFC to say what happened to that RFC, or do we need some other medium to do that?
Yeah. Do we need to go to each individual RFC, or can we just go to one location, find the outcome, and move on?
So
Yeah.
where to begin? There's been like 7 of these so far.
So
Yeah.
which one makes the most sense to start with, Tanner?
Probably the first one.
Yeah.
The first one's pretty straightforward. It's really an introduction of the FedRAMP notices page, what its purpose is, basically what Jason was just saying. And we definitely agree that it's a beneficial change for that paper trail and history to be able to see where things have happened. There's also, that public record for FedRAMP for things like the CISA emergency directive that came out last week. That's another one. I believe that's notice 4, if I remember correctly. But it's just a way where FedRAMP can keep track of, like, these are all the things that we've been reporting on to the public for transparency and also for, that accountability in the industry. So, but more interestingly, and the things that I've been really interested in seeing are the initial outcomes to the RFCs. So what FedRAMP has done is, in the past with RFCs, it seemed to go into a black hole after the comment period for however long it took the PMO to go through the comments and feel like they had gotten to their happy place with where it ends up in its final form. But what the PMO has done with this, which has been great, is saying for 4 of the RFCs that have closed so far, RFCs 19, 20, 21, and 22, they've announced like initial outcomes, like their initial thoughts on what's happening and giving a little bit of insight into their future plans for when the RFCs go into their final form to let industry personnel start like planning accordingly.
So that brings us to like notice number 2.
Notice number 2. But it also is like that one stop. Not only does it give the information about what their initial thoughts are and things like that, but it's also, are they going to move forward with that RFC? Like, and to me, that's rather than clicking and trying to find which RFC was that. Well, going to this notices page to find that, super helpful. I think it's a move in the right direction.
I think it's going to make it more searchable because all of this is, and structured documentation.
So I am sharing the notices page right now. I know you two can't see my screen, but
so we're going to try to narrate, right?
Yeah, we're going to try to narrate as best we can. As Tanner has already stated, the first notice was introducing the notices page. Makes a whole lot of sense. So
we've already talked about that.
We've already spoken about that. We don't need to say anymore unless anyone has any questions.
Let's move on to number 2.
Number 2, reporting assessment costs. RFC 19. I believe you already touched on this one as well.
But this one was really, I think it generated a lot of comments, right?
A lot of comments.
Yeah. And a lot of feedback from the public. And, I remember thinking, and I think that our comments reflected this, that it would be very difficult for the PMO to manage that information, but also to really get meaningful insights because there's a lot of apples and oranges.
Yeah.
And you don't have full context. And I think that they realize that. And that's what I love about FedRAMP and this PMO and what they've done with just soliciting feedback, and then absorbing it and acting on it, and in some cases it might mean this is just not something that we can do, that it makes sense to put the time and energy into.
Yeah.
And this was one of those. So
And I
I
think
think
it's really smart as well, right?
Mhm.
To put it out for that public comment. Hey, we have this idea. Doesn't make sense to do. And then, no, it doesn't. Yeah, coming back with that response. Nope. Based on
Yeah,
the feedback.
do we want people spending the time and energy to strategize about, what information are we going to put in the public? And, it's got to be the low price, the small t-shirt size. And, but then, yeah. So
Yeah.
nobody got time for that.
Don't get time.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. What's the next one, Tanner? What's the next notice? Do you know?
Next notice should be RFC 20.
No, it's number 3.
It's number
Oh, it's
3.
number
This
three.
is like the count.
Golly, Tanner.
It's like the count.
Count.
Just
Why?
each time it's one.
Two.
Yes.
Thank you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No thunderstorms inside. Okay. Yeah, it is. So number 3 is actually the security inbox test.
Oh, yes. Yeah. So this would be the FedRAMP Security Inbox, one of the balance improvements that FedRAMP has released. So what this notice is doing is it's formally putting that paper trail for the notification that the PMO put out that they are going to be doing a test of all of the FedRAMP CSPs, FedRAMP Security Inbox requirements between March 2nd, so this past Monday, and through March 13th is that testing period. And that's just a formal documentation of that announcement for the paper trail.
Well, it says that, and it says a little bit more than that, right?
Mhm.
Because it also says, they're starting their first of planned quarterly tests. So they're going to be doing this every quarter.
Yep.
I don't want that to be lost on anybody because I think a lot of people just kind of focused in on, when do I have to be watching the security inbox? Well, the answer is
All the time.
all the time.
Yep.
You need to have a
Right.
process in place. This isn't a, FedRAMP's going to test it once and then forget about it. I kind of view it as they're treating it as that quarterly access review. Who's paying attention, who's watching out there. So yeah.
Yeah, well, and there's some important details in that notice too about what they're looking for in your response, trying to get some insight specifically about secure configuration guide, because that was the other balance improvement that was mandatory for all the Rev 5 and for 20x CSPs. So that they're looking for insight into your secure configuration guide, a link if it's publicly available,
Right.
Or acknowledgement that you're aware of the requirements. It seems like simple stuff, but
Wait, have we done ours yet?
yeah, we have done ours.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah, shout out to Rachel on the team for leading that effort. So
awesome. Okay. What's next, Tanner?
RFC.
You already said what number 4 was, but that was actually not correct.
Oh, it was not.
It was not.
Dang.
It was not the CISO piece. It was the this is the authorization designations. This is RFC20.
This is RFC20. This is
you have them memorized.
Yeah.
That is amazing, by the way.
I've done a lot of reading on these RFCs. I think Jackson made a joke that he read the DoD SRG for light reading.
For light reading.
Yeah, I feel like that's become me with the all the 20x RFCs and whatnot. So, but yeah, RFC20. I think this one's really interesting. Again, this is another example of the PMO taking feedback from the industry and applying it. It's pretty interesting. They're completely removing the FedRAMP validated term moving forward. Initially RFC20 introduced FedRAMP validated for your 20X
what we're all used to is FedRAMP authorized.
Yeah.
Right.
But the real issue with that was, that kind of gets conflated with the agency
ATO
process. So the desire was really to get away from that authorized term, right?
It's confusing, right? And,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of CSPs are like, I have a FedRAMP authorization. It's like, well, you have a PATO, especially for the JAB authorizations, right?
Yeah.
You need an ATO
Right.
from an agency. And it was just very confusing. So yeah.
Yeah, so they've consolidated all that down to FedRAMP certified with the initial comments from the RFC. They had initially said, hey, we're going to do validated for 20X, we're certified for Rev 5, and they've just decided, hey, let's just do certified, whether you go down the Rev 5 path or you go down the 20X path. And then they've also introduced...
Because there was fear there that having the two different terms might get conflated as having some special meaning behind it.
Is certified better than validated, or is validated better than certified? Yeah. I think it's cleaner and it'd be easier for maintaining. They'll still have some sort of designation, I'm sure, to say that, like, this was the path you went down to get certified, but the level of your certification, if you will, it's not, it's no better than the other. So they've also there was comments about the FedRAMP levels that they introduced. They talked about doing levels
Levels.
1 through 6. So instead of doing low, moderate, high, they initially, for RFC 20, introduced levels, and then folks were asking, how is that going to work with the DoD impact levels?
DoD and CMMC.
Yeah, CMMC level 1, 2, 3, and there's just a lot. There's levels flying everywhere at that point. So the PMO is they've changed course on that, and they're going to designate you as FedRAMP certified under one of 4 classes. Those classes being A, B, C, D. So alphabetic, and then A would be your pilot certification, B would be LISAS/low, C would be moderate, and then D would be high. So
we're continuing on the Sesame Street theme.
yeah,
Sesame Street.
yeah, we went from the count to letters.
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 Yeah. Today's letter is the letter C.
The letter C.
But yeah, so that it'd be interesting to see how that shakes up. I'm curious to see how the marketplace will obviously be updated to reflect all this, and the PMO is also stated in throughout the notices, and in this one included, that they're going to be doing they'll be finalizing what the final form for each of these RFC guidance looks like in the consolidated rules for 2026, where and the PMO and all of the working groups that we've been having, they've been talking about. They want to get past get over this modernization hill where they've acknowledged that a lot of people they're showing either concerns or just confusion because there's a lot of changes coming out really quickly.
Fatigue.
And fatigue, yeah. I mean,
it's hard to keep up with, right?
Yeah, it's hard to keep up with. And so, they've stated, this consolidated rules that they're targeting end of June to release, those will be applicable. If you become certified under the consolidated rules framework, you'll have that until end of 2028. So it's a lot longer process to then, update to CR 2027 in 2027 and have that through 2029. So they've acknowledged that, the plan moving forward is not to continue modernizing at the same pace. They want to get to a stop point. And we were talking about this internally the other day. FedRAMP's been, 2017? It's been around since. I mean, it's
longer.
No, longer than that.
It's
Yeah.
longer than 2017.
2012.
2012,
Yeah.
not 2017. 2017 would have been the introduction, maybe of Rev 5, before it got adopted.
Sounds about right.
There's a date there somewhere,
Yeah.
but FedRAMP's been around.
Rev 5 came a little later, I think. But yeah.
But yeah, all that to say, FedRAMP's been around long enough that a big facelift like this, it was due, and this is just the learning curve that comes with it. So.
What's the next RFC? Do you remember?
We didn't talk about what the letters meant. I mean, some folks.
Well, we did. We said low, LISAS for A.
Low.
Oh, I missed that.
Yeah, low, moderate, high.
Mm-hmm.
B, C, D.
BCD, but what about A?
C stands for moderate.
A is pilot.
A is pilot.
We do sound like Sesame Street. A is for pilot.
Yeah, A stands for pilot. B stands for low.
Mm-hmm.
Or
C,
LISAS.
Or LISAS.
Yeah.
Yep.
C stands for moderate.
And D,
And D stands for high. Not Sesame Street.
Elmo would not be proud.
No. All right.
I believe the next one is the CISA emergency directive, right? Am I off again?
That'd be pretty awesome if you just memorized
it would be pretty awesome.
Shame.
If
You would just memorize all the content.
Shame.
That would be great. It's actually not.
That's not.
Because we're number 5.
RFC 21, and
It is
21.
It is.
Yep.
Wow. Impressive.
It is. Because it comes after 20. So
Maybe not so impressive.
But yeah, so this one's talking about the updates that the PMO has introduced for the marketplace. RFC 21 initially announced this push to include not just assessors on the marketplace, but also advisors, and then also update some of the requirements that CSPs had to have for their marketplace listing. So there's some connection between the comments on RFC 19 and the outcomes from RFC 19 with 21. They had, PMO had announced that, all of the CSPs, they're going to have to include their pricing structure on the marketplace. Due to the, genuinely the pushback from the community and just the disagreement with that requirement from the industry, the PMOs decided that they're going to remove that requirement for advisors, assessors, CSPs in the final version of the, outcome from RFC 21. They're still putting some more tweaks together. One thing that was interesting was the PMO had initially said that you would have to pick a pathway to getting your FedRAMP certification, so either Rev 5 or 20X. And at this point, PMO said, there was some pushback that they didn't really expect on that because they expected most folks would want to pick one or the other. And upon further consideration, they said we don't really have a reason to require you only go down one path.
Yeah.
They don't recommend it just because of the lifts and the requirements. There is some diff in the requirements for the actual authorization submission process, and they just say might not be worth it. But if it is worth it in your circumstance, we don't have any reason to stop it. So I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah,
Not
we've
something I
actually
expected.
I mean, I could actually see a lot of scenarios actually where there may be interest in both paths.
Hmm.
That it's good to hear that there was consideration there. Just some examples like folks that are going through the DoD process. Um, that process takes a lot longer, right? They could be getting 20x while they're going through DoD, and then end up with a Rev 5 as well from the DoD process, right?
Yep.
And that's one of the things that I saw as well in the roadmap, an update that in effect that it was one of Pete's notes in the roadmap. There's a roadmap item for DoD reciprocity, and he was basically saying, in effect, this is in place now. You can have your authorizing official on the DoD side submit the documentation to the FedRAMP PMO, and they would review it and incorporate it into the marketplace within a few weeks. So that's a really positive thing. That has always been a pathway.
Yeah.
But it's not always been clear to the DoD side that they should follow through on that, right? But now that the PMO is saying, "Hey, this is here. We can do this," it gives CSPs more of an opportunity to get that in place. But they could be working on 20x and have that ahead of time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So let's start back
Let's do it.
at which is next, Tanner.
Next RFC next notice would be notice number 6 on the CISA emergency directive.
You only know that because I already told you.
Yeah,
We're getting good at this.
we sure are.
I'm so glad. Eventually, one of the notices was going to be
The CISA.
the CISA emergency notice notification.
Yeah. So this
Okay.
one, like Jason was saying, the paper trail that the notice is going to have, in the future as new emergency directives or emergency messages that are sent to your FSI inbox. Like this one, this was actually, it came out just like any other security emergency directive, and the PMO was like, "Hey, you guys are going to get a kind of a dry run test before our official FSI test next week." This emergency directive actually came out last week. We're filming this on March the 5th, so it came out a couple days before the planned FSI test time period. So it was a good dry run for everybody before the official one.
Mhm.
So this is just again, as future emergency directives from CISA come out or future emergency messages that FedRAMP needs to send out are posted, they'll post a copy of that paper trail. So I believe this one was on Cisco SD-WAN devices, and you just had to reach back out to FedRAMP, confirm whether you were affected or not with any applicable inventory details. So
Yeah, I mean, and in your response to the FSI email.
Yeah.
And we got to exercise our FSI.
Exercise the FSI. Awesome. And last but not least, so far, as of today's publication.
As of today's publication, notice number 7.
Notice number 7.
Yep.
Yeah, what is that about?
This
Tanner?
one's about RFC 20, or the initial outcomes from RFC 22. One of my notes here. Yeah,
this is
one,
leveraging external frameworks, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, this one was, it was pretty interesting seeing this one. I think this one came out last of all of them, or came out fairly recently for recording this. So, they were talking about the Class A certification. So again, they're taking into account details they've released from previous notices. They're removing the validation frame pathway, like we talked about with RFC 20. They are removing the levels. So Class A certification, whether you go Rev 5 or 20X, they have noted that that's only going to be available through a program certification. So the program certification path was this idea that was introduced by FedRAMP for in RFC 23, and the idea is that you're getting the full certification directly from the PMO. So that pathway is, I think we talked about it in our last RFC episode. It's the it's part of that new way to get listed on the marketplace with a certification, or with like what we're doing with the pilot program. It's similar to that, without having to put as much investment as you would previously for like a FedRAMP ready assessment, or being blocked by sponsorship concerns like you would have had to have been on the FedRAMP in process. So,
That's been a big barrier to growth for the whole industry. I mean, a lot of folks want to do federal work, but it's a chicken and egg problem.
Right.
That you can't get the you can't get authorized without the sponsor. You can't get a sponsor without being, or you can't get customers that are interested without the authorization. So it's hard to get that sponsor initially without the right mix of events.
And I mean, it's so easy for CSPs to get stuck there at that FedRAMP ready.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Like, I mean, how many times have we seen that?
Yep. Over and over.
Over and over. So I think this is definitely a step in the right direction as well. I know it's just, I mean, this was just released 2 days ago, this notice. So I'm sure there's going to be something to follow on this one. Honestly, I think they're all very important and all very intriguing, but this is the kind of feedback on me, or from me, on this one is, this is going to be an interesting one to watch as it unfolds. I think it's really going to open the door for a lot of CSPs to get that authorization.
Yeah, and I think one thing that they've changed, or in the initial outcomes, they noted that previously for that, once you get that program certification,
Sorry, I said authorization. Yeah. My bad. Certification.
Yeah. Once you get that program certification, one of the updates in this notice is that they're actually you have a 2-year period of being listed in like FedRAMP in preparation. So with that Class A certification level, what was previously denoted as level 1, you actually have 2 years to get up to Class B, Class C, Class D, which I think is a positive change. Like you said, we've seen a lot of CSPs get stuck at the FedRAMP ready stage. So it makes sense to extend that period of time, that once you do I mean, it's a business experiment at the end of the day, getting that information or getting listed on the marketplace in that way will be a big benefit, and it will last longer. That investment in the experiment will last longer.
I mean, the whole purpose of Ready to begin with was to provide a way that a CSP could self-actualize their entry into the marketplace, right? Without requiring a federal sponsor, right? So they could pay for an assessment, and they could get into the marketplace. But ultimately, it was not that successful, just because the criteria at the time that the PMO applied to FedRAMP Ready required the system to be fully developed, required full maturity of the security process,
full doc package. Yeah.
I mean,
it's a significant amount of investment just to.
So you'd basically have to invest all the way.
Yeah.
Plus, your assessment costs would be more because there would be a readiness step and a full assessment.
Yeah.
So it really struggled to get traction. I mean, I think it was interesting for a small subset of CSPs, but didn't have the broad adoption that would have driven more entrance into the marketplace.
I mean, and I get the reasoning behind the initial readiness assessment, right? It was to give that kind of confidence for the federal agencies to do this sponsorship. Like, yes, I'm not just going to throw a ton of time and resources at the CSP that may not be mature enough to do it, like that might fail. Because at the end of the day, the whole reason for the FedRAMP program is for federal agencies to have that marketplace to go to for products they can use to solve for problems that they have.
Right.
And
but that, I mean, the A category.
Yeah.
What's it called?
Class A.
Class A. Thank you.
Sorry.
Sorry. This will let CSPs enter more easily.
Absolutely.
Right? Because they can leverage SOC 2 Type 2.
The environments they already have.
Which a lot of CSPs have.
Yeah.
Right? And then it lets agencies try that service, right? With as a pilot, as a really low risk, beyond the low categorization, right? But it's just
IATT,
a pilot,
right, or something like that. Yeah.
Test data, right?
Yeah.
So it lets them try it, right? So there's a signal to federal that, hey, we want to do federal work. There's a path for agencies to try it, and then
And you avoid the assessment costs, or I guess if you do the 20x path, it's the validation and verification costs.
Nothing beyond SOC 2 Type 2. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And
well, you're avoiding that readiness assessment cost, right? Which could be pretty substantial.
Yeah, I mean, when you were talking about the readiness requirements, kind of growing beyond the scope of of initial design, I can't remember. It was one of our. I think we had a customer. I can't remember who it was, but he mentioned that it felt like FedRAMP Ready became FedRAMP Perfect. And and I can't remember exactly who it was, but
it really was. It was in a way
it was almost harder.
It almost became harder. Yeah,
than an agency authorization.
Right.
Yeah, and we saw that with our advisory and our platform, Accelerator and XP40 platforms. We saw customers go through it, and we saw the evolution of FedRAMP Ready get harder over time. Because
to where we didn't recommend it.
Yeah,
right. Exactly. We're like, just skip it. Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just a money sink, so to speak.
Yeah, it's definitely encouraging. Like you said, a lot of folks have SOC 2 Type 2, and so.
Yeah. Did they mention any other frameworks that they would leverage?
In the initial outcomes, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Mike, looking at the notice, the moving forward, they're going to use SOC 2 Type 2 as the test case to get started, and then they're not against introducing other frameworks, but they just know, it sounds like based off of industry feedback, SOC 2 Type 2 is the most highly desired or most commonly applicable.
Yeah, I think it's the one that is most ubiquitously required. Right.
Yeah, and I mean, I just drilled in for everybody that's actually watching the podcast. You're able to see that I'm screen sharing. I just drilled into this notice, and it says that the most frequently leveraged external framework is SOC 2 Type 2 for these pilot authorizations. So that's where FedRAMP will start for 20x Class A FedRAMP certifications. So I don't know if they're handcuffing themselves to Type 2 SOC 2. I just think that since that's the most frequent one that they've seen, that's kind of the industry standard in commercial. That's where they're going to focus a lot of their time and energy right now. I don't think that's excluding other frameworks the way I read it.
Right.
Cool. I'm sure someone from FedRAMP is listening to me and going to be like, yes, we're excluding everyone, Mike. Or maybe they could agree with me. Please let us know.
Leave a comment.
Leave a comment below.
Leave a comment on our YouTube.
Yeah. I know. With that being the, don't want to shut down discussion, but with that being the last notice, I did want to make it clear for all of our listeners at home that RFC 22 that we just talked about and 23 both closed at the same time. So last Thursday at midnight Eastern Standard Time. Pete's already made a public post, I believe it's through LinkedIn, to say that RFC 23, they've got a lot to chew on with that. That's the actual program certification path, RFC.
It's going to take a little bit of time.
Yeah, it's going to take a little bit of time. And, that was one of the ones that intrigued us the most as well. So it's not surprising, but, we're going to keep an eye out for
this
that.
This one's in the slow cooker.
Yeah, it's in the slow cooker. It deserves time. It's definitely a positive move in the right direction to have that release valve for, like you said, CSPs that are stuck in that ready phase for the remainder of the year. So, you'll be on the lookout for another post from us about those notices, and check out the FedRAMP notices page as well, because it's getting consistently updated. So, anything else, guys?
Anyone have a good dad joke?
A good dad joke?
No.
No.
I come up with them just off the cuff every day because, being a dad, they're just kind of roll. But when I'm put on the spot, Jason, no, I don't. Golly. I always get made fun of for my dad jokes, but I
have one.
Oh, geez. Who's that? Oh, golly. We haven't even.
Caitlin's off cam. We need a Caitlin cam.
We need a Caitlin cam.
We need a producer cam, yeah.
Producer Caitlin.
What is the dentist's favorite time?
The dentist's favorite time?
Tooth time.
Hold on.
I was going to say tooth day, but that's a day.
No, that's not time.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't say tooth o'clock. I don't know. Okay.
I don't know. We're stumped.
I give up.
Tooth hurdy.
Oh,
tooth hurdy. We were right with the tooth.
Yeah.
Tooth hurdy.
My tooth hurdy.
And everybody groaned in unison.
Ha ha ha.
We need fail horn.
It was a dad joke from the only lady in the room.
How ironic.
The irony.
All right,
Awesome.
close
Well,
this thing out.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, everybody, and be on the lookout for the next episode. Talk to you soon.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Awesome. Okay, so welcome back to the episode. Sorry to interject here. During editing of our latest episode, we realized that FedRAMP had released their initial outcomes for the Rev 5 program certification RFC, as you'll see on my screen here. So I just wanted to get our initial thoughts out there for the pleasure of our viewers. So as we're scrolling through here, FedRAMP has included a quick recap based off of what they've released in the previous notices. So all the notices we were talking about in the office, Jason, Mike, and I. But they've also followed up on some of the notes they had initially in RFC 23. So you'll see here, they still are planning to retire FedRAMP Ready towards the end of July. That was previously proposed in RFC 23. They are planning to provide a path for all CSPs currently stuck in FedRAMP Ready to transition to FedRAMP Class A certification. We're talking about the initial outcomes to RFC 20, the fact they're getting rid of that validated pathway and all the levels, so they're not going to be classes A, B, C, D. So initially, RFC 23 said that you could transition from FedRAMP Ready to FedRAMP Validated Level 1. It's same thing from a baseline perspective, just a different name. Now it's going to be a transition from FedRAMP Ready to FedRAMP Class A certification. And then additionally, they have noted that the consolidated rules for 2026 up here, yep, you'll see this here. The consolidated rules for 2026 will include all of the details for the retirement of FedRAMP Ready, as well as they're going to be publishing all the full criteria for implementing and achieving program certification. So they've added a little bit more details here, where they're going to be diving into stages 1 and 2. So during stage 1, you'll be able to transition from FedRAMP Ready to FedRAMP Certified Class A as a Class A certification. And then likewise, you're going to be able to transition during stage 2 from a FedRAMP Ready to Class A, either from FedRAMP Ready to Class A or from FedRAMP Ready to Class B/Class C certification. So again, Class B and Class C are LOB/LISS and FedRAMP Moderate. But in order to transition to achieve a program certification of either Class B or C, you do have to have met one of the following criteria between the beginning of January and the beginning of March of 2026. So January 1st, 2025 and March 1st, 2026. So within the last 13 months, you have to follow into one of these 4 criterias. Those 4 being either being listed as FedRAMP Ready during that period, being listed as FedRAMP in process during that period, completing a readiness assessment during that period, or completing a full security assessment that includes the SAP and the SAR, Security Assessment Plan, Security Assessment Report. So this helps give a little bit more clarification as to what criteria CSPs need to meet in order to have reached the standards required in order for RFC 23 to be a path, that program certification to be a path. Additionally, cloud services that want to pursue program certification need to be willing to adopt the required balance improvement releases. That's an important call out, that the required balance improvement releases are still going to be in scope for these CSPs. Towards the end of the notice, there's additional notes on some of the specific requirements and how those are changing, some of those proposed requirements from RFC 23. So there's a lot of details here that we suggest our listeners go in and view as well, but nothing too major that we wanted to call it specifically for the sake of the episode. So awesome. Thank you. And thank you for your patience and your flexibility.
We could do it together.
Would you like us to all do it together?
Yeah.
You want us to each take a line? Actually, why don't we introduce ourselves?
How about we just do one word, like welcome?
Why do word when few word do trick? Yeah.
Okay. Welcome
Back.
Mike screwed it up
I
already.
screwed it up.
Welcome
Back.
Two. You screwed it up.
I screwed it up.
Okay, we're not going to do
I'm
this.
channeling you.
Yeah.
Welcome
Back
to Behind
the
Shield
Podcast
with
Infusion Points.
I'm
Tanner
Mike.
Jason.
Bailey.
Jason Bailey?
Jason Bailey.
No, I'm
sounds like
Tanner Bailey. So my next word was Bailey for my last name.
And we're trying to make coherent sentences, not thinking individually.
Holy smokes. Okay. That was, if you're still listening after that start,
Gary's going to kill us.
Gary's going to kill us. Thank you for being here.